Hello everyone, welcome back to Kulture Katha. India's fascination with gold has a long history, running right back to the Vedic ages. Rig Veda, the oldest of the Hindu texts, talks of Hiranyagarbha, or the golden womb from which all creation is said to begin. The radiant sun in the sky and the blazing fire or Agni inspired our ancients to compare them with gold, the ever-shining metal. In fact, gold is also referred to as the seed or semen of Agni, the Hiranyaretas. Because of its non-corrosive nature, gold is associated with qualities such as purity, virtuosity, positivity, etc. While Indians could not have enough of gold, India did not have enough of it. So they imported it from the West, tons of it, some 2000 years ago. An ancient compilation of Tamil poems from the Sangam era called Ahananuru makes references to ships that came laden with gold from Greece and Rome and returned with pepper. India's love for gold is best captured in the words of a Roman author and philosopher who called India the sink of the world's gold. In fact, a Roman senator feared that his empire would go bankrupt at the pace at which India was draining all their gold in return for muslin, silk and spices. So what did we do with all the gold we imported? Jewellery, of course. We find abundant evidences of intricate jewellery adorned by Indians in ancient India, in the sculptures of Sanchi, the paintings of Ajanta, in the travelogues left behind by foreign travellers, not to forget our stories. In fact, each of the 5 great epics composed in Tamil is named after a piece of jewellery, including the most famous epic, Silappadiharam, where the anklets owned by the protagonist Kannagi play a key role in the story. The Tamils regard these 5 epics as ornaments that adorn their Tamil mother. In Sanskrit, plays including Vrichakatikam, Vikramorvashyam and Abhignana Shakuntalam, to name a few, also are stories centered around ornaments. But when one looks deeper at these stories, trying to understand the role of jewellery, certain interesting patterns emerge. To start with the most interesting idea, we find that in our stories, jewellery is often used as proof of identity of a person. How a piece of jewellery was definitively identified with a particular owner comes through best in the story of Kannagi in Silappadiharam, where ornaments become key catalysts. In the epic, Kannagi is the wife of a rich merchant named Kovalan, who abandons her for a courtesan named Madhavi. Kovalan gains access to Madhavi by buying out a necklace auctioned by her. There comes a point in the story where Kovalan gets back to Kannagi and both wish to start a new life at Madurai in the Pandya kingdom. Unfortunately for Kovalan, when he tries to sell Kannagi's anklet to raise some money, he is falsely accused of stealing the Pandya queen's anklet and is sentenced to death without trial. Kannagi, on finding out about the mishap, storms the king's court and proves to him that her husband was innocent. And she does this by breaking open her anklet, which contains rubies, whereas the queens that Kovalan was accused of stealing contained pearls. It was the identification of the anklet with Kannagi that helped prove Kovalan's innocence. Take the great Indian epic, the Mahabharata. At Indraprastha, when Karna enters the ground where the Pandava and Kaurava princes are assembled to demonstrate their skills, Kunti, his mother, who had not seen him since his birth, identifies him by the armor and the earrings he wore. If there is one story that repeatedly makes use of this motif, it is the Ramayana. When Sita decides to accompany Rama to the forest, she carries her jewels along. And it's precisely these jewels that come handy to her when she is abducted by Ravana. She uses them to leave a trail which Rama and Lakshmana pick up during their search for her. The pattern of linking a person to his or her ornament crops up again in the epic when Rama sends Hanuman to Lanka as his messenger to Sita. Here, he hands over his signet ring to Hanuman, telling him that the ring would help Sita identify Hanuman as his messenger. And Sita does recognize Rama's ring. In return, she gives her Chudamani, a jewel that she wears on her hair, to Hanuman to hand over to Rama. Valmiki writes how when Rama saw the Chudamani, he felt he was seeing Sita in person. Apart from being used as proof of identity, jewels are frequently associated with the idea of chastity and loyalty. This motif recurs in a strikingly similar pattern in two different folk tales. In the first one, Chandramati, Raja Harishchandra's wife, is said to wear a Mangal Sutra that only her husband, the Raja, can see. According to the story, King Harishchandra fell into bad times, lost his kingdom, and was separated from his family. At some point in the story, it so happens that the king's son dies after being bitten by a snake. Chandramati brings the boy for burial, but she does not have any money to carry out her son's last rites. Remember, she is separated from her husband. She pleads with the Chandal at the cemetery for help. And Harishchandra, who is the Chandal in charge of the cemetery, refuses to do the burial for free and demands that Chandramati sell her Mangal Sutra if she wished to perform her son's last rites. It is at that moment Chandramati realizes that the Chandal is none other than her husband, for only he and no one else could see the Mangal Sutra she wore. The same idea comes through in a story about Hanuman, who wears earrings that only his master could see. So on his first meeting with Rama, when Rama makes a comment about Hanuman's earrings, Hanuman realizes that Rama was indeed the master whom he was destined to serve forever. In the Chandramati story, her Mangal Sutra symbolizes her chastity, and in the Hanuman story, his earrings signify his loyalty to his master. If you have noticed, in most of these stories, we find jewellery being portrayed as a woman's thing, which it is, of course. In fact, jewellery has always been considered a woman's biggest asset, and women who shed their jewellery signaled a bad omen. Take the case of Kaikeyi. She shed all her ornaments as a sign of protest, demanding that her son Bharata be made king and Rama be exiled. Her act signals a point in the story from where things take an unpleasant turn. Again, we find Sita's shedding of her jewels leads eventually to a battle and the breaking of Kannagi's anklets to the destruction of Madurai. This idea is further reiterated in an interesting story from the Tamil version of Lord Kartikeya's story called the Kanda Puranam. It so happened that once, harassed by the vicious Asuras, the Devas approached Shiva to create a progeny who could destroy the wicked demons. Shiva acceded to their request and using his Kundalini powers created Kartikeya, who originated in the form of fire sparks emanating from Shiva's third eye. The entire scene of Kartikeya's birth was so fearsome that Parvati, who was seated beside Shiva, got up in a fright. As she got up, her leg hit a rock and her anklet broke and fell. At this point, Parvati, who was extremely angry over not being involved in the birth of Kartikeya, took out her anger on the Devas through a curse that their wives would go childless. So yet again, we find the motif of a woman losing a piece of her ornament leading to some terrible consequences. Friends, these stories do not end here. Pearls and precious stones too feature prominently in our literature and mythology. We'll take you through some of those in my next video. Till then, keep liking, sharing and commenting. Tata, bye bye, take care.